I'm Nikki and welcome to the Preppy Possum. Today I'm going to lead you step by step through a painting. All right, let's paint a fall tree looking up. So it's kind of like we're underneath the tree looking up. Let's grab a huge brush, it's like a 1 inch, and dry it off. And let's start by grabbing, let's do like some red and orange together. So some bright red and orange, and we're just gonna do a layer of paint over the whole canvas, just because I think that'll be a good, easy start for us. So the red and the orange, grab a bunch of paint, and we're just gonna go for it. But once you have like a good thin layer of red and orange all over the front, then we'll just wipe that one off and chunk it in the water, and we're gonna let it dry for just a second. So now we have like a good thin little layer of the red and orange. So now we're gonna throw our tree on there. Let's grab like a number 8 size brush and dry it off. And we'll grab some dark brown, even a little bit of black. And we're just gonna skip in from the left-hand side of our canvas, at least like 6 inches or so. And we're gonna throw a little whoop, kind of like a rainbow. It's gonna be kind of the top of the base of the tree. And then once you have that little whoop, then we're gonna throw a line straight down. Well, it can kind of go straight, and then you can kind of let it get a little bit bigger at the bottom. And we'll do the same thing from the right-hand side of our whoop. Throw a little line, it can kind of start out straight. All right. So that's kind of the trunk, the start of the trunk. So let's just go ahead and grab some brown with a little black, and we'll fill it all in, just to get some paint on there, because we'll come back in just a second and make it look more round. So we're just gonna grab a bunch of paint, and don't worry about like which direction right now. You're just getting a thin little layer on there. All right, so we have a good thin little layer. Then keep the same colors on your brush. And now we'll go ahead and right here off the top left of our trunk, let's just throw us a little limb that goes on over here to the left. You can even throw it off the edge. And you can even thicken it up just a little bit. And then we'll just kind of let it flare right there where it touches the trunk. And then let's go ahead and throw like part of a limb, just kind of right there to the right of that one we just did. We'll like kind of start the base of it. So you want it to taper a little bit and then it gets a little skinnier. We'll come back and throw little limbs off of it. And then let's go ahead and throw us another little branch, maybe that leans over to the right. And when you're doing these branches, the trick is to have a lot of paint on your brush and then just be real light with it. But we'll come back with a smaller brush and get our tiny branches. Now let's skip over here to like the top right of our trunk and let's throw one that leans over here. So I'm gonna have it like lean over here to the right. And then I'm going to come back in a little bit and throw some little ones kind of right next to it. And then let's skip down a little bit from that one, a few inches, and we'll throw another branch. This one can kind of go over and then I'm just going to throw it on off the edge. Just let it droop right on off. All right, so we got a good little start to our trunk and our branches. So we'll let that dry for a sec. So just wipe off your extra and chunk that one in the water, and let's grab a little bit smaller. It's like a number 6 size brush and dry it off. And let's start with, let's throw a few lights on there. So we're gonna use like a light blue and a seafoam. And I'm just gonna throw, it's gonna be kind of like the sky peeking through in a few places. And so you wanna load your brush with light blue and seafoam, and I'm just gonna do like little dabs. And I would do most of these dabs together because it would kind of be in little clusters where the light's kind of popping through. And we can always come back and do more light later. And don't worry if your orange and red's still a little wet, that's okay. But it just looks good to keep them in clusters, so you don't want to go through and do like polka dots everywhere. You want to kind of keep them in little groupings. And you don't want all the groupings like the same size, so I try to make like some bigger, some smaller, because some places it'd be more light coming in. I'll try to do some right up near the limb so they're not all out in the middle. And don't worry if you get too heavy with this anywhere, because we can always eat away at it. So we're still getting like a bunch of the lights on there. And then we'll come back and bump with all different other colors too. But we got us a good little start to kind of like the sun peeking through. So now I'll just kind of wipe that one off. You don't have to rinse it out, just kind of wipe it off. Now let's go ahead and do like the dark red. So kind of some dark red and bright red together. And we'll do just like we did with the light blue. We're gonna do some clusters. Make sure you have some that go like right up next to your tree. But we're just gonna load our brush with a lot of paint. And just do little bump bumps. So kind of hit with the side of your brush. The trick is to have a whole lot of paint and then just be real light with it. All right, so we're getting a bunch of the dark patches. And I would make sure you throw like a bunch of kind of big patches when you're using this dark. Anywhere where I still have like a big space, I'm just going back and throwing just a little bit of this. Then I'll even go back with a little bit of purple with the dark red, and I'll throw that in a few places. Just a little bit of purple. And it's all right if it mixes in a little bit with like your light blue, your dark red. You just want to get a little bit of that purple color in there. I think we have a little bit kind of going on, a good start to the purple. All right, now we'll just let that dry for a second. So just wipe off your extra and chunk it in the water. All right, so let's grab like a number 6 again. So same size brush, like a number 6, and dry it off. And now we're gonna grab some of that orange that we used on our background before with a little bit of pale orange, and we're gonna skip in and throw some little orange bumps. So load your brush with a lot of paint, and kind of anywhere where you had a big section, we're just gonna bump in there with a little bit of orange. So that's a lot of bumping, but that'll kind of fill in all of our spaces. And then we can come back and throw our limbs in just a second. anywhere where you see a big space, we're just throwing a few more leaves. I know it sounds crazy, but the more the better, because we'll even come back and bump a little bit more. And anywhere if it's looking like it's getting too light on you, you can grab a little bit of red with the orange. All right, then just kind of wipe that one off. So you don't have to rinse it out, just kind of wipe it off. And now we're gonna grab like a dark gray and light gray. And we're gonna do big whoops. So think kind of like a rainbow. You want a whoop that goes all the way left to right. And then we're just gonna keep doing those whoops. Make sure it really arches up, because that's what's gonna give it the appearance that it's round. We're just using the 2 grays. You can even grab a little bit of tan with them. And we're just gonna keep doing those little whoops, and make sure you take your whoops all the way to that bottom edge so it doesn't look like you just jumped up and started with the whoops. All right, so we have some whoops that go, start all the way at the bottom, and then you want to take it all the way up. Then once we have that, let's let that dry for just a second. Let's grab some dark brown with a little bit of black, and now we're going to do our little limbs. And you can even use a number 4 size brush if you want for this part. You can go smaller, but we're just going to throw some little limbs, and we can thicken up those limbs that we threw on there in the beginning. Just add a little paint through the middle. Let's see, let's throw us a big limb up here off the top. And I might come back with a smaller brush to get the real tiny ones. But at least with this brush, I would take it and add some paint through the middle of all those ones we started with. All right, so now let's just wipe that one off and chunk it in the water, and let's grab a little bit smaller. It's like a number 4. A number 4 size brush, and dry it off, and we're still using like the dark brown and black. And now we're gonna throw keep throwing like some smaller limbs. So from our little limb over here on the right, let's go ahead and throw a couple little twigs that come up. And don't worry if you pick up a little bit of that paint, that's okay, because we're actually going to come back in a second, throw some lights through them anyway. So it's all right if you pick up a little orange. And then we'll have some little twigs that hang down over here. Then let's go ahead and throw a few little limbs. So we're getting a bunch of little twigs on there. All right, so that's getting pretty twiggy. That's good. Okay, so now that we have a lot of twigs on there, you can even grab a little bit of like milk chocolate brown and some tan, and we'll throw a few streaks. Just so we have a little bit of light in a couple places. And then it'll dry in just a second. We can go back and make sure we got them streaky enough. All right, so we have a good start to our little streaks through our limbs. So let's just wipe that one off and chunk it in the water. And let's grab a little bit bigger size brush again. So like a number 8, 6 or 8, let's see. Let's grab like a number 8 and dry it off. And now we're gonna do a few more whoops through our trunk. So I'm gonna grab some of the darker browns with those grays that we were using before. I'm gonna throw just a few whoops with that color. And whenever you're doing it, make sure you're really arching. Let's grab a little bit of black with it too, just to give us even a darker gray. So you just wanna make sure you really have that arch. All right, now let's grab a little bit more tan with the grays, kind of like we did before. And we'll do a few with that color. And you could even come back with like a tiny brush, and if you wanted to carve something in the tree, a lot of people like to do that. So you could use the tiny brush to do a little heart and a little initial plus an initial, or you don't have to do the heart, you could just do the little, you know, couple little letters there. All right, now we have the start to our trunk. While we have a little bit of that gray on there, let's just throw just a tiny bit of that through our limbs in a few places, just so they have a little bit of that color. Okay, that's good. Then we'll just wipe that one off. And let's rinse that one out in the water. Let's grab a little bit smaller size, like a 6, and dry it off. Now, kind of anywhere where we need a few more bumps, we need to go back and throw a few. So let's grab some more of that light blue and seafoam. And if we need to make it a little, I'm gonna even grab a tiny bit of white. And just where I had that before, I'm gonna come back and throw just a few of these. So not quite as many as I did in the beginning, but just so it'll make them even a little brighter, because they always dry a little bit darker than they go on. Let's see. We've gotten a lot of it brighter. So now let's wipe that one off. All right, so we'll go ahead and wipe that one off, and we'll grab some of the red and orange again. So some red and orange, and now we'll go back anywhere where it looked kind of thin through the background where we didn't have any bumps before. We'll just kind of bump a little bit of this. So anywhere, and that'll kind of help blend them together too. You can also use these two colors, the red and orange, anywhere where like your limbs got thick, if you need to slim them down anywhere. But still kind of keep these in patches, but just anywhere where you had some of that background showing, the red and dark orange, and we're just gonna do some more bumps. Just anywhere where it need to be thickened up. Let's go ahead and see how that's drying for a second. So just wipe that one off and chunk it in the water. So we'll just use a teeny tiny brush and dry it off, and we'll sign this puppy. Then I can show you how to do the thing on the tree too if you want, but you can use a teeny tiny. And if you had wanted to do initials or anything on your tree, I would just wait for it to dry a little bit and then use like a dark brown with like a teeny tiny brush. And you can do like, if you want to do a heart, you can personalize it. You could just paint it on the wall. All right, then you can put like, if you wanted to do initials in there. But yeah, just use the teeny tiny, and then you can always just clean it up. Like if you got too heavy or anything, just grab a little bit of gray and go back in there with your brown. There we go, the fall tree. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Be sure to check us out. We're on Cox Street in Asheboro. And be sure to check out our website, www.thepreppypossum.com.